Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Happy Hour webcast from WhiskyCast.com. I'm Mark Gillespie in the WhiskyCast studio in Haddonfield, New Jersey. Hope you've had a great week and are ready to start the weekend off. Happy Rosh Hashanah to all of our friends who celebrate the Jewish holidays. And we are going to have some fun for the next hour or so. We'll take your whiskey questions and comments. You can submit them via the Facebook chat functions on our videos, along with Periscope and YouTube. I keep saying this all the time, guys. If you're watching us on Twitter, don't try to comment in the tweet with the video feed because we won't see those until after the show ends and we won't be able to take your questions on the air. But it's time for one of our Friday roundtable BS sessions, whatever you want to call it. And we've got two guys who know the world of BS well when it comes to whiskey. Dave Worthington, Sam Simmons. How you doing, guys?
Good evening. We're full of it.
Yeah, the Uncorked Whisky Sessions podcast, Master of Malt, Adam Brands, That Boutique Whiskey Company, and all that fun stuff. How you guys doing?
It feels like Friday, and it's a great thing to be able to celebrate with you, actually. That Friday feeling hit us about 4 o'clock today, didn't it, Dave? That was nice.
Yeah, I've got my Friday shirt on. I don't know why you didn't get the memo. Hawaiian shirt Friday, come on.
I thought we were going light and dark, so I'm trying to stick with the theme.
Well, the problem is Hawaiian shirts over here have taken on a new meaning that isn't exactly a good thing. So I can't do Hawaiian shirt Friday.
Okay. I know. Yeah, it's true. I was trying to explain that to colleagues of mine that it's been hijacked, unfortunately. So they're now political statement. So our whole team in Edinburgh wears them anyway.
Let's get past the politics for a second. What's in your glasses, guys?
Right this minute, I've got some Tininic.
Ooh.
11-year-old Tininic. It's a boutique release, of course, on brand. And it's delicious. I thought it's a nice nice breakfast whiskey.
What have you got, Sam?
Something sweet and mature, a 20-year-old Lagavulin.
Nice.
Oh, nice.
And as Pete Head points out, hello to all the usual suspects. I believe we were trying to come up with you guys were all trying to come up with a name for the regulars who watch the show and watch the webcasts on a regular basis. I think it was Cask Heads or something like that. But
the happy hour Cask Heads.
Yeah, okay. Something like that. And Greg Unrau joining the Compass Box virtual tasting next Sunday, but won't have any Felicitas. It's not in Canada yet. That's because Greg mentioned he was trying Compass Box Hedonism for the first time. And the Hedonism Felicitas is what John Glazer is coming out with to celebrate the 20th anniversary of Compass Box. So I'm looking forward to trying that one.
Yeah, single grains. He's been an ambassador and a spokesperson for the beauty of grain whiskey for a long time. Well, I guess 20 years at least.
Yeah. And you guys have done some grains too at with That Boutique Whiskey Company, right?
We have. We bottled 6 of the current operating grain distilleries. So the only one we haven't bottled is Starlaw. Hello, Valerie. Lovely to see you. But we have bottled all 7 recently closed. So everything closed from 82, I think Carsbridge up until 2010, Port Dundas. So all 7 of those recently lost distilleries. So yeah, lots of yummy grain whiskies. Is Dave drinking tea? Yeah. Tea my ass. Not this time of night.
Tabitha changed up her accounts on us, going as Spirit Bomb now. Speaking of spirit bombs, I poured, well, Sam, what's in yours first? You didn't tell us, did you?
I did, yeah. It's the Lagavulin.
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry. Got confused.
You just weren't listening.
No, I got confused for a second. Oh, I love the labels you guys come up with for these. I poured some Alberta Premium Cask-Strength rye. I heard it won some kind of an award this week.
I can't tell you how many family members in Canada forwarded me news clippings over the last couple of days, and just how much flurry of commentary isn't there online, Dave? Everyone's asking you about it, I'm sure.
Well, I think it's a great whiskey. I put it this way: I bought this bottle and paid my own money for it, which is rare for me. But yeah, I've always thought it was a great whiskey. Is it the World Whiskey of the Year? Probably not. But
not for you.
It's in the neighborhood. I wouldn't put it down.
Yeah, not for you. So yeah, I mean, everyone has their own favorite during the year, and yeah, it's one person's opinion. So, hey.
How much of that stuff matters to you guys as consumers and as professionals? How much do ratings really matter from folks like us?
That's a tricky one. I think both Dave and I got into this line of work as enthusiasts. We both had blogs, didn't we?
Three of us. Yeah.
Oh, well, absolutely right. You're right. That's absolutely true. And so I think when you review whiskeys, you didn't always review whiskeys. Back in the beginning, you weren't really doing any whiskey reviews. And when I had Dr. Whiskey, I would write about whiskeys just to describe as objectively as possible the kind of things I detected. Try to make it funny, try to make it a bit entertaining, but really just try to be objective, not evaluatory. So I never gave scores or stars, and I still think it's sort of a handicap. It's a shorthand, and it distracts you from the truth of what's in the glass. And Dave, did you guys do scores on Whiskey Discovery?
No, we never did any scores either. It was just our thoughts, basically. I think we just gave our tasting notes, and they were very, very different because we're two different people.
Yeah.
Sometimes they would align, but sometimes they were just way off.
Yeah.
You wouldn't have thought we would.
Guide, isn't it, Mark? It's a great guide for shorthand, especially on a shelf where there's a million. You're new to Scotch whiskey, or new to gin, or new to whatever, and there's many different brand names on the shelf. How do you navigate that?
Yeah.
If there's something that says 5 stars or whiskey of the year, it helps. And so in that regard, it's very useful if it brings people to a category.
Yeah, when I started out doing WhiskyCast 15 years ago, I wasn't rating whiskeys, as you pointed out, Sam, because I didn't feel like I'd earned the right to. And after 2 or 3 years, I was invited to join the Malt Maniacs, and one of the rules was you had to post scores in the Malt Monitor. And that was a condition for being a member. So at that point, they said, look, if you're good enough to be in this organization, you're good enough to post scores. So it was also pointed out to me that I was getting to taste some really cool samples that a lot of folks didn't get to taste, and that maybe I should share my thoughts on those samples. So that's why I started doing scores. But as far as I'm concerned, they're one person's barometer of what a whiskey is like at one specific point in time, and opinions can change. Use them for what you want as a guide, but each of us decides for ourselves where we are in the journey and where the journey stops when we find something we like, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. As boutique whiskey, I mean, we have entered lots of awards and over the years, and obviously we can't chuck everything into an award panel, but we do. It is really good when your whiskey goes into blind tasted with a panel from the Scotch Whisky Masters or the IWSC or San Francisco. I mean, when that panel decides that actually they like this whiskey and it's going to be a gold or a double gold, I mean, that really is great that we do. Yeah.
I'm not even sure I really want to go with this, but Tyrone Coty up in Nova Scotia and the Halifax area said there was a whiskey nosing with the folks at the Kensington Wine Market last week. I don't even want to know about the shirt optional Q&A portion, but knowing some of the guys up there, I'm going, oh dear God, what did they do?
We're back with them next weekend as well. We're doing the other half,
and we'll see your boobs in about 40 minutes, Mark.
Not going to see mine. Nope. As Pete had pointed out, traumas can be lightened with a decent dram. And Valerie Bradshaw, our pal up in Saskatchewan, she has several bottles of the Alberta Premium Cask-Strength rye and loves it. And I've always liked Alberta Premium, even though regular stuff was good.
Yeah, their Dark Horse was delicious
for a blend, and had some of the 25-year-old a few years ago, and they released a 30 that I didn't get to try, but I think they make the whiskey, the base whiskey that goes into a lot of the Whistle Pig releases and some of the other ones. So it's really a very underrated distillery. Greg Unrau points out that both Alberta Distillers and the Kensington Wine Market are 10 minutes away from his house, and he's glad he didn't join that tasting the other night that was apparently clothing optional.
Oh, you missed out.
Well, look, if Jim Murray's rating is getting press and people talking about it and exposing Alberta Premium to more people around the world, that's only a positive. And like Dave said, I think when you have one person reviewing it, it's one person's opinion. It's different than a panel or those type of awards where it's blind tasted. It's a different thing. Take it with a grain of salt. But if it's the first time you've heard of Alberta Premium, then great, go discover it. It is great whiskey.
We have a question for you from Graham Fraser, Dave. Is that Boutique Dave's tasting room?
It's it was my office. Yeah, it is my tasting room. I have some secret stuff in front of me there. You can see a little as well. See, obviously it's got
give us the quick
we've got
tour,
a little
Dave.
spoon on it. Sorry?
Give us the quick tour. What's all on the shelves behind you there and everything?
Well, everything in here is boutique. This is my boutique office. There's my library up here, all the books, whiskey books. The whiskies that you can see here are all of the recently launched World Series. We actually got our shit in a sock and released a load of boutique whiskies with a with a purpose almost. Definitely a purpose. So, 9 world whiskies. I've lost the Paul John somewhere. I've drunk it. No, I haven't. It's here. But whiskies from India, Wales, Germany, from Ellsburn, the controversial Glen Ellsburn, a new peated millstone, a delicious single malt from USA, Copperworks.
Yes.
They're making good stuff.
Amoric, our first ever French.
Dave, I love the way you reached over across to your left side for the Indian whiskey and then immediately moved it to the right side just out of camera range so we can't see it.
Oh, sorry. I'll move the World Whiskey blend out and put the Indian there. Is that where?
We were just trying to take a look at it, and you moved it right out of the camera shot so we couldn't see it.
So, it was one of our Paul Johns. There is our third batch. It's a 6-year-old. But, a whole slew of... I've just poured some of the Penderyn as well, first ever Welsh whiskey, which is... It's so fragrant. It is so fragrant. Delicious, delicious, delicious.
And we're getting comments about Kensington Wine Market. Our pal Andrew Ferguson owns the place, and Tyrone Coty points out that it has to be the best whiskey store in Canada. I can't argue with that. I have not found one better. And I know you've been out there, Sam. Dave, you've been there too, right?
No, I have never been to Canada.
They won't let you in, or what?
Probably.
Well, anytime there's a reason for Boutique to be there, I'm going, right? So
that's Dave, true. That's true.
Sam calls dibs on Canada because home turf and all that.
It is a great store, but you know what I was going to say, like whiskey, so much of the enjoyment of whiskey is the people in the community. You got people commenting, names I know, names I follow online. We've met in person. In some cases, we know Andrew. We know each other personally, not just through professionally. And similarly, Kensington Wine, it's all about the people. The staff's brilliant. It's such a welcoming place, and they've been great ambassadors for wine as well. But for the whiskey category, bringing new people in, being a trustworthy source for whiskey for so many whiskey explorers for a long time.
And as Tabitha points out, Canada is amazing. She loves going over there. I'd love to go up there. Sooner or later, they're going to have to reopen the borders here at some point. How are you guys coping with the lockdowns that I guess are coming back now over in the UK, or at least in parts of it?
As a company, Atom Brands have more or less told us to remain, keep safe. Basically, that's basically what we've been told. And if we can work from home, then work from home. So, there's no need for me to go into the office. I only ever went there once a month, really around once a month anyway, because I lived on the road. But I've been here and doing everything from here. So I've been to Australia, I don't know, maybe 6 times in Australia, the States and Canada. We're back in Canada next Saturday evening. So I like the Australian ones because that's whiskey tastings at 9:30 in the morning. They're mad over there. They do whiskey in the morning. Whereas the Canadians, they stay up until midnight before they start. Yeah, I know.
You're just like the executive club miles on British Airways.
If only they are. I don't get tastings.
I'm sorry, what, Sam?
If only they were earned through virtual tastings, Dave would be in platinum.
We have a comment for you, Sam, from Gavin Thompson. He loves that picture of Bowmore behind you, taken from one of the Boutique Whiskey Company bottlings. Tell us about that one and how you got it blown up to a wall-size shot.
Yeah, that's an early bottling, because Dave, wasn't Bowmore one of the earlier bottlers that earlier casks we had?
It's fairly early in this whole grand scheme of things. I mean, I'd have to dig into the slide, but yeah, I mean, it is just the early release, what should have a little boy on.
So, next door to Bowmore, this is facing the parking lot, really the approach, and just to the right, out of shot, is the swimming pool, which is famously heated through secondary heat from the distillery. And so there's a boy running, and then there's in subsequent labels, there's a lifeguard chasing after the boy. But my head, long before I worked at the company, my face was in the window because I was staying in that house when the car in the image got in a car accident. That face shield, I was staying in that house. So I've been in that window. And when I started working with Adam, I came out of the window and did a Dukes of Hazzard across the front of the car. So that's the one I blew up behind me, is when I started at Adam Brown.
Dukes of Hazzard, don't you mean a Magnum PI thing with the sliding across the hood?
Listen, your Dukes of Hazzard is my Magnum PI, is someone else's TJ Hooker. I'm not sure.
Yes, it was one of our very early releases. It was our 9th ever label, Bowmore. Number 9 in the grand scheme of things, first release in December 2012.
And that's batch 14, where I got lit out of the cage.
And you've got it right next to the burning candle there, too. I'm just hoping it doesn't catch on fire. I don't have anything. I don't allow open flames down here in my whiskey room, for crying out loud, for the most part. These labels, let's talk about these labels, because these are some of the most creative labels in the business. Where do you guys come up with the ideas for these, and who's the artist that does them?
Yes.
Well, the artist,
Emily.
Yeah, the artist is Emily Chappell. She's a freelance illustrator, a Mancunian originally, studied in Glasgow, and fell in love with Scotland, Glasgow, and stays there. So she's a Scot now. She's Glaswegian. And yeah, we met her. The company met her on Loch Lomond, is the story I've been told. On a booze cruise on Loch Lomond. Our marketing director at the time was on the same booze cruise as Emily. Started talking, and we were looking for an artist, and she goes, "Oh, I can do that. Give us a job." That's the short story. And yeah, she's in our heads now. I mean, she just gets it immediately. She understands. After 8 years, because we celebrated our 8th birthday just last week, actually. Last Saturday was our 8th birthday.
That's why these are still on the desk.
Oh, yeah, my hat's somewhere.
I'm not sure being in your heads is a good place to be.
Probably not. Yeah, every label tells a story. Absolutely. I mean, if you look at some of the modern ones now, we try to incorporate, certainly with the New World distilleries that we've been bottling, we're trying to incorporate. There's a Copperworks one. I mean, it's just a glorious label. We've got the 3 founders, or the 2 founders, and
Jeff,
3 guys. Yeah, vice president of sales. Or, but yeah, Daluan tells a sulfur story, but we've dressed them up as like sulfur molecules. So if you Google sulfur dioxide and hydrogen sulfide, you'll get a yellow sphere with 2 little red spheres stuck on the top. It's normally upside down, but if you turn it upside down, you think, actually looks like a little face with little ears, and let's turn that into the teddy bears from hell. So like good sulfur and bad sulfur. I just love that label. It's one of my favorite labels, the WN label.
And Petehead points out something correct, that he can't remember ever seeing Magnum perform the slide on Magnum PI. I keep forgetting that was a Ferrari he would have been sliding across. That you don't slide across the hood of a Ferrari. Well, you could do it once, I suppose.
Do it once, yeah.
Chris Radcliffe wants to know if there's any chance of some of those labels ever appearing on prints or in a book with all the detail and humor in them. It would be kind of cool to see a collection of prints available at some point.
I guess so. It's something that merch as a brand. I mean, really, as a brand, we've concentrated on whiskey. Simple as that. I mean, that's our first love. But yeah, we weren't ever expecting to be collectible or anything like that. But yeah, the labels do tell a story. And they've become a bit of a cult, haven't they? People looking at the labels and collecting the labels. And we do have them on postcards that we bring out at various shows. We've had them in a number of shows.
Right.
And Chilton Almeida, hello, boys. How are you doing, Chilton? Good to hear from you. Our friend from Paul John. Last time I checked.
Got some Paul John here, buddy. There he is. That's Chilton on the label there. I haven't modified this one. That's before. That's when he was a young man without the beard there. That's Chilton there. I have done a modified label where he's got a big long beard.
Brian Volkert says he's still waiting for an Altmore Dino Shark mug.
We can do that.
You can do that.
We should start doing that though, Dave. It's a great idea. These are great questions, and there is a need for it, I guess.
There's a demand for this.
I've made a couple of mugs as sort of trials just to see how they go, see how they last in the microwave or in the dishwasher, that sort of thing, just to see if they fade or they pop. So yeah, I've just made 2 mugs. I've made the Dalyuan label. It's one of my favorite labels, and I've made my Lovely Horse label because it's just so recognizable. You know, as soon as anyone sees it, they know it's boutique, and they all want to sing "My Lovely Horse." Yeah.
How hard has it been for you guys to source casks these days? Is it getting harder to source casks for these whiskeys, or is it still about the same as before? Because with all these, all the demand for whiskey now, a lot of these distilleries don't want to let go of casks, and the brokers are hanging on to them. Everybody's blending and doing all sorts of stuff. How hard is it to get casks?
It's a good question. It's definitely relevant, but I don't think it's any different now than it may have been 10 or 15 years ago in the supply side. So there's a long tradition in Scotch whiskey of the big distilleries, even the small distilleries, being able to hedge their bets and really overproduce, knowing that if they don't have those requirements in 10, 12, 30 years, there's a secondary market to which they can sell some stuff. And they also sell fillings famously to McPhail's and to many other old Cadenhead and other independent bottlers. Toby Cutler is our head buyer, and Felix Deere, they've done all the buying for the scotches and for the world whiskey that we spoke about. And we're lucky, from my position and Dave's position, that they get great casks. Every sample that lands in our desk is a hit. There are things that maybe we wouldn't want to release because they're already too similar to an official Macallan release or an official Glenfarclas release. So what's the point with Boutique doing that? The one thing we have noticed that I think is interesting is many more speculators, many more investors, not in it for the drink, not in it to ever put it into glass, but to make money. And so one problem, and it's sort of hilarious, to be honest, but Toby will get an email at 9 o'clock from his contact saying, hey, here's a list for this week, some stuff that we're trying to get rid of. We'll go through it. He'll send it to me. We'll see how the figures look. And by 1 o'clock, he'll have been offered the same casks 3 more times down the line, probably at a massively inflated price. And that's a shame, really. And that will eventually hurt the price on the shelf and the quality available for the whiskey drinker.
And that's what really frustrates me is just, I get the point that it's a business. And yes, I see the value of investing in casks, but if you're not going to bottle them yourself, why bother? If you're not going to enjoy them, leave them for somebody who will enjoy them, I think.
The metaphor that's relevant recently, I think, is if you were someone who thought, hey, let's buy some toilet paper, and you paid an inflated price for toilet paper March 25th, £5 for a roll of toilet paper, let's say, and you thought I could flip it. Well, a few months later, turned out, mate, you were wrong. What are you going to do with that £5 toilet paper? You can only wipe your ass. That's all it is at the end of the day is a drink. Not treated like a commodity.
Well, you can use it for packing material in packages, things like that.
Very expensive.
You can go out and toilet paper somebody's tree.
Yeah, you could do mummy games with the kids.
Yeah. You can do a mummy rap game. Yeah. Haven't played the mummy rap game for a long time.
Yeah. Good question from Chris Ratcliffe. Are there distilleries that you'd like to bottle that you can't get whiskey from? Who are the hardest distilleries to get whiskey out of?
Well, there are a number of Scottish distilleries that I would love to be able to get. I think I was going about the 95 established single malt distilleries of Scotland. That's everything older than Kilchoman. So Glentower being the oldest and Kilchoman being the youngest. There are 77 of them we bottled. So there's a number. Okay, some of them have been teaspoons, so we would never get some of these distilleries. You'd never get a Glenfiddich or a Balvenie in a boutique bottle because Mr. William Grant and Sons would not let us do that, and that's fair enough.
Because they teaspoon everything that they let out of the building. That's
fair enough. That's their business. That's their company philosophy, and yeah, we're happy with that because the teaspoon stuff is just as bloody yummy, and we have to call it a blended malt, and it's a lot cheaper than a single malt. So yeah, we're happy with that. It's great stuff. We can't call it Balvenie Glenfiddich. That's okay. That's not a problem. But yeah, I would love some young Talisker. I would absolutely love some young Talisker because Talisker's just one of those distilleries, that just it's good, isn't it? Yeah. So we've never bottled any Talisker. I would love some Talisker.
We've never had it, bottle it or not. We've never even had it in stock. Yeah, so no. Yeah.
And Old Pulteney. I'd love some Old Pulteney. There's another sort of one of those distilleries that I'd love to get your fingers into. There's a few releases that you see from independent bottlers every now and again. Very G&M have a nice young Old Pulteney that's just sublime. So yeah, there's as a whiskey geek, I'd love to tick all 95 off. Simple as that. Benryak, Oban, Royal Lochnagar, yeah, everything. Let's tick them all off just because they're there to tick off. Let's say we bottled everything from Scotland. Why not?
But then you'd run into the question Dave Kuhn points out: are there distilleries that either don't allow independent bottlings or restrict using their names? There's one close to his heart that insists on only going by an Isla in independent bottlings, and of course, we know that Glenfarclas threatens legal action anytime somebody even makes a noise about bottling a Glenfarclas independent bottling and putting the distillery name on it. If you see Flanscargill or Speyside's Finest, stuff like that. What distilleries? What distilleries do you know of that will not let you guys use the name on the bottle?
There's always a clever way around it, even though that does exist. And like Dave said, full respect to the distillers, that's at their discretion. So that's absolutely fine. But there is always a way around.
We're happy to work with that. Yeah. We're more than happy to work with that. Yeah. I mean, that's fair enough. That's their business. And they want to protect their name. Yeah, cool. I'm cool with that. Yeah.
And Paul Whitson says, is it basically Diageo? Then no, because Glenfarclas isn't Diageo.
It's definitely aren't.
Yeah, it's not that at all. Go ahead.
Well, sorry, it's not just Diageo. And the ones we just mentioned that Dave was saying it'd be great if we could get them. The reason we don't get them is because they're not surplus to requirements. There aren't. Yeah. Every drop of Lochnagar is spoken for. Every drop of Oban is spoken for in one of the Diageo products. So that's why. It's not because they're hiding it from us. And we have many Diageo products that we can name. And so we do. No, but I think maybe that your viewer was mentioning some South Shore Islas, like maybe Lafroig or Lagavulin, owned by two different companies, and both are putting up barriers for people using the name. And again, absolutely fine, because there are ways to indicate to the connoisseur that, the red door is Glenfarclas, or George Grant on a bottle, or a number 1 at the SMWS, or South Shore Isla, or Leapfrog. Talisker was tactical. So there's always ways to do it. And it is, that's
Dave's a great name, by the way, and Nurse Dave's Shaving World, and I don't even want to know where that handle came up with. Dave Kim, that's no lie. Tabitha says she's had a 5-year-old Talisker from an independent bottler, but it wasn't as nice as the 10, to be honest. It depends on what you're getting. So
that's part of the adventure, isn't it, of trying independent bottlings.
What you got there, Dave?
Well, I just saw Sam's bottle of Copperworks, so I thought I'd just pour a sneaky dram of Copperworks, because I was chatting to Jason Parker just the other week about Copperworks Distillery, and I learned a lot just chatting to him on our afternoon tea sessions on Instagram. And 3-week maturation. 3 weeks. Fermentation. 3 weeks fermentation. Yeah, 1 week at 21 degrees centigrade. So 7 days at 21 and 2 weeks at 5 degrees. I have to go back and listen to the tape.
You scared me there, because I thought you said 3-week maturation. I'm going.
I did. Yeah. Fermentation, and just it's.
They're doing some really cool stuff, and Copperworks is it's out in Puget Sound, just south of Seattle in Tacoma, and they're doing some fun stuff with all their warehouses are floating. They're on the sound on floating like a floating barge type warehouse. So the whiskey keeps getting agitated a little bit as the sound rocks with the wave action and stuff like that. So it moves around a little bit.
We didn't discuss maturation. I'll have to write that down.
Well, they're brewers, so I'm sure you could speak a full hour of the uncorked, of the tea that you do on the Instagram. That would be full just of the brewing background that they each have. So fermentation is that's where all the flavors, most of the flavors created. So that is an important step for sure.
On the newer distilleries that are popping up, because you talked about sort of Kilhoman being the cutoff point for you, Reviews Whiskey wants to know if we'll see a Rassy bottle in the future. They're still getting their initial single malt release ready, but what about the newer distilleries? Are you working with those guys to get your hands on casks for the future, or what?
Well, mine arrived today.
I like that bottle.
I love that bottle. I haven't opened it yet. We might do that in a minute. It only arrived this morning.
Go ahead and open it, because we need to hear how it is, because I know that they've been their first bottles. The first bottle that they sold at auction for charity, I think, just raised a boatload of money a few weeks ago.
It certainly did, yeah. It didn't go pop.
And while he's opening that, are there countries you haven't yet bottled or that you'd like to investigate more?
Well, it's amazing that I think the world of whiskey has changed so much since I've been into whiskey. I got into whiskey when I moved to Scotland in 2002, and it really, the old world countries, Ireland, America, Canada, Scotland, Japan, were making whiskeys, of course. But now every country that imports Scotch and Irish whiskey is now making their own malt whiskey. So Australia, India, everywhere, and I there was a occurrence at work about a year ago where I had some beautiful samples of Mortlock come in from Toby and Felix, and we had some Klein Leach, some real sexy whiskeys on the table. And the next day, Felix came back from a trip to Australia where he had some samples of potential casks to buy. And I have to be honest, these 2-year-old and 3-year-old whiskeys, malts, and ryes knocked the shit out of those Mortlocks.
Yeah. Amen. When I was down in Australia and New Zealand, Australia just a little over a year ago, and New Zealand this spring right before lockdowns, those guys are making some damn good whiskey down there.
Yeah, and we're working with a bunch of them for the World Whiskey Blend, and like Dave said, we just did a World Series because of that. You're absolutely right, Mark.
Yeah. I think the one problem they have is that they can't get production at scale, to where there's a lot of those guys are still bottling single casks.
Yeah,
so they can't produce enough whiskey to actually release commercial bottlings, with the exception of Starward in Melbourne. But if those guys get their act together and can put whiskey together at scale, they are going to knock the socks off the rest of the world.
These are home. These are homemade businesses. These are husband and wife, father and daughter businesses. They haven't got shareholders pumping money in. They're just passionate people making great whiskey. So it's small steps, and I'll let them grow.
But these are the people we want in the whiskey business. We want people with passion.
Yeah, absolutely. But we don't want it to go. Yeah, small steps. Let's walk before we run, sort of thing. But absolutely, they do need to. They do need some investment in there. But it's small steps. Scotch whiskey has had hundreds of years to get their shit together, basically, haven't they? I mean, really, if you think about it, they've had a long time to create great whiskey. We were talking about this with Dominic a couple of weeks ago about New World Whiskey and rushing into it. They've got no pedigree of making whiskey, and they make some pretty ropey stuff. I was talking. Was it raw chicken? We all like chicken, but no one wants to eat raw chicken. I thought it was just a brilliant quote. But talking to Patrick from Millstone, some of his early distillations, no one will ever get to see them because he didn't release them. They were his trials and they weren't good enough to release. He mentioned that in our little conversation just earlier this week.
Let's answer Tyrone's question. You guys have bottled some great young American whiskeys. Who do you like in North America for distilleries? Who would you like to bottle that you can't get to yet?
That's a great question. I mean, we met the guys, Micah and Jason at Copperworks a few years ago. I love them as people, love the distillery. So it took years to even have the opportunity to buy casks from them. So those new relationships that we've made since then, they're hopefully coming to fruition soon. There's a lot of time, Mark, when I lived in the US, I lived in New York. So there's a lot of New York state distillers that are close to my heart and are friends, and that we're working with right now to try and bottle some of the amazing ryes coming out of the old homestead, Pennsylvania and New York, of where rye was born really in America.
And let's see here. Crumpler, I was surprised by Virginia Distillery Company's Courage and Conviction being just 3 years old, and as he puts it, so damn good. And I can't argue with that. I liked it too. And they're making some good stuff. And now that they've gotten past their legal issues with the Scotch Whisky Association over the Virginia Highland stuff they were producing, that was a blend of imported Highland Scotch and their own stuff.
There's only one Highlands.
Yeah.
Surely.
And I'm going to have to unplug myself here because you were talking about New York distilleries, Sam. I just got a package today from our friends at Hudson Whiskey.
Right, they've done it.
Just a second, I can't hear you. I've got my earphones out. My apologies.
A lot of companies, I guess during lockdown for the marketers to keep employed, there's been a lot of rebrands that have been recently announced. Have you seen, Dave? So many in my inbox, I keep getting like, oh, Glenturret's got a refit. Hudson's got a refit. All these brands are
new owners, isn't it? Huh? New owners. Benryak is, changing back to one word rather than two words. So they dropped the capital R. So you understand
they
that.
Have come out with a new line and all new packaging, which I can actually show you. I'm hoping it wasn't embargoed. I didn't see any embargo on the email I received from them. I love embargoes too, when they tell you can't talk about something until X and X date. And I can hear you guys now. Sorry about that.
Not worried.
But this is the new packaging.
Yeah, I saw that online. So, you're not breaking any embargoes.
Yeah.
Remember the branding they used to have. If you have before and after.
But these are the new things. That's Do the Rye Thing. They're a straight rye whiskey. I think Spike Lee's going to have a shit fit when he sees that. And Bright Lights Big Bourbon. So, but as bold as New York. And this is the first time we've seen really the influence from William Grant & Sons since they acquired the distillery. It's been pretty much the same as what Ralph and his team came up with originally for those guys until just now. So, and these are still the 375 ml bottles. So we will be doing some tasting notes on these at some point. And let's see. Sophie wants to hear what you think of that Nicneen, Dave. Have you opened it yet?
Yeah, absolutely. It's in the glass here. It's beautifully balanced. It really is beautifully balanced. I mean, this is gluggable. I don't know what this is bottled at. 46, I think this one is. 46, yeah.
I've got some Nicneen too. I didn't get my bottle yet, so I'll pour some to have with you, Dave.
That's very, very fruity. Is that just the young spirit that we had?
Yes, it is. Yep. Barely legal.
Barely legal, yeah. But it's whiskey, still whiskey, but we can't call it whiskey. That just annoys me. It magically becomes whiskey at the age of 3.
What are you, an anarchist? There's got to be some sort of rules, Dave. Jeez, calm down.
No. Well, they're 2-year-old ryes, 1-year-old bourbons. Why not?
And Chris Ratcliffe, I'm sure if the Hudson guys are watching, they'll use this one, Empire Stave of Mind.
Write that down. Chris, that's brilliant. Yeah,
well done, Chris.
That now. Buy the website.
I heard someone years ago describe the spirit from that distillery in a not so beautiful way, calling it New York shitty.
That was when they were still sort of getting things worked out back in the early days.
Yeah.
Pete Head wants to know if we can get Shilton on the show. And yes, we can get Shilton on the show. I just don't have Shilton's email address. Hint, hint, Shilton, you know how to reach me.
Let's do it now.
So get in touch with me and we'll get you on the show sometime soon, Shilton.
Get in here now. I'll go to bed, mate.
Chris Ratcliffe wants to know if you guys have tried, any of us have tried the Cask-Strength Kings County latest bottling. And how high is too high for an ABV? I think if you can set it on fire, it's probably at that point it's getting a little high. What's the strongest whiskey you guys have tasted? Bottled.
Oh, dear.
Bottled probably 52.1, which was 52.9, which was this Paul John 6-year-old.
No, I mean tasted, not bottled.
Oh, okay. Tasted will be New Make Spirit off the still.
But I mean, I'm talking bottled stuff, an actual product.
Right.
Well, I'm guessing it's got something American in the low 70s, right? I've had, hold on. Yeah.
I've had a Belgian Owl that was in this like 72.
And I think it's a great question that he asked. Is it enjoyable? Did you have to cut it?
Yeah, you have to cut it a little bit, I think. Dave Kuhn has some X4 plus 10 Octomore that was at 70%. I remember that one. There's been a couple of Stags early years ago that were in the 71, 72 range.
Yeah. I remember the Stags.
Had those, yeah.
Greg Unrow, 65.1 is too high unless it's absinthe. Well, 65.1 here is not bad at all, I think.
It depends on the balance, doesn't it? It really does depend on the balance. If the alcohol takes over, then what's the point? You're going to have to cut it. But if everything else around it is masking that alcohol, then and it tastes good in the mouth, then it's not too high, is it?
Well, then maybe that's a negative of Jim Murray giving one of the many negatives, perhaps, of giving an award to a whiskey like that. That's cask-strength. It's 65.1%. If you are new to the category and you say, "Oh, I read this article about this whiskey," you go find it at your local shop. You bring it home and drink it. It burns. You hate whiskey. It maybe doesn't bring you.
Same thing with with recommending an Isla to somebody who's brand new.
That's right. They feel
give
that
them a peat bomb. Bill Ricker points out the Benryak 60.6% can take a little water. He's had another 60%er that didn't need water. And Dave Kuhn points out the X4 doesn't taste that strong at all, but you put a drop of water in and it changes completely. I liked that one when I tasted it. I'm assuming you guys got to at some point as well.
I have done, yeah. That it is like rocket fuel, but God, is it complex? You're right. You're just giving it air in the glass. It changes all the time. Drops of water. It's a magical, mysterious drink for sure. And
Tabitha, I like your thinking. Anything over 100% is too much. Tabitha also points out New Make is evolving into whiskey. It's just like Pokemon. Yeah, you got to get them all. I'm laughing about that because today is my grandson's birthday. Hunter turns 8 today, and he told us
Hunter.
Yeah, he told us this week that his goal for some time, he wants to become a bioscientist because he wants to make Pokemon real. But he also told us this week that he came up with a plan B just in case that doesn't work out. He wants to start a K-pop band.
Man, dare to dream. I mean, that's what a beautiful ambition.
Yeah. Hey, why not? Hopefully he can sing. Greg Unrow points out the good thing about the Cask-Strength, though, is that you can cut it in steps and find the right sweet spot.
Yeah, but then you wouldn't do the same every night.
We're a bunch of nerds. I think it's important to remember that most of the world isn't drinking whiskey the way we do. You're right. I love it. Yeah. I love dropping it in. Most of the world's drinking whiskey as it comes out of the bottle and in volume. They're not going to have one and write tasting notes and check Ralphie's notes and check Mark's notes and go online and Google it and write their own blog. They're going to put it in a glass, not in a Glencairn. They're going to put it in a tumbler. They're going to get it in them so they can deal with the family.
And they're going to put some ice in it.
Sorry? They're
going to put some ice in it or Coke or something like that.
Yes, exactly. So it's a really limited experience that we enjoy, and that's a very cool thing as well. Most of the world does want it to be ready when they press open.
Yep. Chris Ratcliffe, 57.7 for the new Brewdog beer, and apparently awful. Is that the sequel to the one that came in the stuffed squirrel skin or whatever?
God, you remember that? Yeah.
Yeah, that and Tactical Nuclear Penguin and the squirrel roadkill that they sent to the taxidermist and shoved the bottle up through the skin until you pour it out the squirrel's mouth. Well, how they got away with that one.
Is that freeze distillation and then cold finger it? Yeah.
say what you want about Brewdog as brewers, but as marketers and getting us talking, they're absolutely brilliant. Like, I don't know if you've heard the story of the politician here who traveled during lockdown.
Oh, yeah.
He claimed he needed to get an eye test. So he drove up to Barnard Castle or something. Was it, Dave?
Oh, let's name him. You can name him. It's okay.
I just want, you can mix whiskey with anything, just not politics. Anyway, he gets busted and everything else. And like very quickly, I think within 14 days, Brewdog had a beer out called Barnard Castle Eye Test. I mean, that's just
bad.
Yeah, and you were seeing double after you drank it too.
That's funny.
And more jokes about the Brewdog beer. They partnered with a German brewery to make it. You got to share it with 8 people. 30 pounds for a 40 ml bottle. Okay, now wait a second. That's just outrageous.
What? 40
30
mil?
pounds for that 40 milliliter bottle of Brewdog for that 57?
That's
there must
a
have been
30 mil drinks by the dram.
Strength in numbers, sold for 40 ml for 30 pounds a bottle.
Wow.
That's insane. And Shelton's going, why is it that he agrees with each and every word Sam says? Well, Sam is a doctor of poetry.
Yeah. So I'm getting into it, Shelton. I love your TikToks. If anyone's on TikTok and is above the age of 30, you got to follow Shelton.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although apparently we may not have TikTok in the U.S. after this weekend.
I've been using that to get my daughter off it. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Trump. Finally, I can say those words together. Thank you and Trump.
Let's move on now, right? What's been your favorite boutique label and story behind it so far? Tyrone wants to know that one.
Dave, you're the label expert, so I'm gonna let you go because
I do love the Dalian label. It is one of my favorite, and I made.
I've got it here. Don't worry, I've got it right beside me. I've been drinking it.
Sit down, Dave. He's got it.
I've got one in the back there. So yeah, the Dalian label. I mean, it is these two teddy bears. I did mention it earlier, but they're sulfur molecules. If you look really close to, there's a little S on their noses. So little S's on their noses, and then their ears. This one's got hydrogen, so it's hydrogen sulfide. It's the bad sulfur. And this one here, we've got the oxygen, so it's sulfur dioxide. It's sort of a slightly good with the halo above it. So I do love that. I think that's really clever. It's a very simple label. I'm
a big fan of the Jura that we do. We do a Jura, and if you know, George Orwell finished 1984 living on the Isle of Jura one year. And so we did a label with like a propaganda poster. It's a deer's face with like, brainwashed eyes. And it says, water is life. I forget the rest, but it's freedom is savory. Like the 1984 motto.
That's cool. That's cool.
Big brother.
That's
I like
really. Let me. Can I share it?
Sure. You can try.
I can share.
While the old men play with technology, I will lean in closer and give you a commentary. Dave seems to be using his mouse. He seems to be moving it. He's finding the window. He is finding share screen. He seems to have found the button. It looks like yes, it seems like he's found it, ladies and gentlemen. And
can you see that?
Yep.
We can.
We can see it.
Finish his length. Freedom is savory. I like that.
I love that label.
Yes, we are equal opportunity. We do allow Okay.
I need to unshare that, don't I? That's what I need to do. Old men finding. I'll find the right button.
That could have been a lot worse.
Yeah.
Oh no, it wasn't. It was just all the. There was nothing there.
It could have been Dave watching the WAP video.
That's my K-pop.
Great question from Dave Kuhn. When it comes to whiskey labels, what's your favorite? Not yours, not any of your brands, and
Right.
What's the most classic?
That is a great question because there's some of those labels that just haven't changed over the years, and for good reason.
Yeah.
I love that. That's a great question. Give me a sec. Let's think about that. Might have to look at the bar behind me.
Yeah, I would start off with the Balvenis because
That's a great one. Yeah.
The Balvenis, and Sam used to be the brand ambassador for the Balvenie. That's not why I'm saying it, but those labels, you could always tell the Balvenie on a shelf from everything else.
Mm-hmm.
Very classic. Same thing with Maker's Mark. Very distinctive, very classic. Very it doesn't change. They don't screw around with trying to change the branding every so often to keep up with fads and keep up with designs. And Greg Unrau or Graham Fraser Compass Box labels are inventive.
Oh yeah,
and
Compass Box labels are pretty.
Yeah, and also Greg Unrau, Lagavulin, classic labels as well for Lagavulin. They don't screw around with those either.
Yeah, since the classic malts, it's been steady and beautiful and classic. And the other cool thing about Lagavulin, a lot of people complain about whiskey pricing, don't they? Myself included.
Yeah,
that's one of those whiskeys that's been the same price for 20 years. Yeah, it's gone up slightly with inflation, but it's shocking that 16-year-old, when I got into whiskey, was very expensive. You know, it was very aspirational for me at that point, but it's still the same price. And that's whatever we say about Diageo, I think that's an incredible thing.
Yeah, because they could have jacked up the price on that so high if they'd wanted to and justified it. Graham Fraser points out he's enjoying the Sexton single malt a lot. It's apparently from Bushmills. Yes, it's part of the Bushmills family. Good question. And Dave Kuhn likes that Freedom is Savory logo, a label as well. Good question from Chris Ratcliffe. What other plans might be in the boutique future, and what would a boutique whiskey festival be like? That's interesting.
Well, if you've ever heard our podcast, that's a glimpse. We also had a World Whiskey Summit, right, Dave, where we had people from all over the world during lockdown came together, one of the first sort of world virtual whiskey summits, and that was mad. And that's a glimpse into what boutique might be like. I don't know. What do you think, Dave?
Yeah, we're getting busy now for a boutique whiskey festival right now, aren't we? I mean, really, the boutique whiskey festival is going to be at the virtual whiskey festival in London. You know, the London show can't go this year, so it's going virtual. So we've been given the reins, basically, of our stand for a full week. So we have a full week of entertainment.
I've got one of those too, and I still have to put that together and see how we're going to do that. So, because we're going to be taking part in that as well.
Oh, great!
Oh, cool.
I'm sorry.
That's great with the whole stand. Like it's 72 hours of content. It's massive. We're very lucky. You're probably lucky. You have podcasts. You have.
We'll just put the videos up, but we're going to be doing a few live sessions too during the whole week.
Very cool.
But and Greg Unrau points out, since the show is virtual this year, he might actually be able to go.
Nice.
Had we all been able to go, I'd have been coming over to see you guys in a couple of weeks.
That would have been good. It would have been good to see you.
Does Bruichladdich count when it's painted bottles? Interesting question on the labeling.
Oh yeah, I do like the classic Laddie, the blue bottle. I think that was really pretty. I think it was a clever, yeah, and the yellow ones for the Isle of Barley. And the black art bottles.
Oh, the black art bottles are classic.
Oh, they're pretty.
No, this is the classic. Those are black art. Sorry, I couldn't resist.
Oh, fantastic.
Well, I was waiting for you to break out the puns and the anagrams and stuff, Dave, like you did last time you came out. But
we're ready to go if you want to do it. If anyone wants to play a game, I'm ready.
Oh, hell, let's do it. Let's have some fun. What do you got?
We always do games on our podcast. As you know, Mark, when you were on it, I think you were on the 5th episode. So thanks a lot for that. We're still going.
Thank you for having me.
We survived. And we always play a silly game. And Dave, did you prepare one yet?
I've got one ready to go.
Let's have some fun.
Can you see that?
Not yet.
Let me add it in. And a dram
there we
time.
Go.
Okay, let's have some fun.
Okay,
and what I will do is we won't answer the question. We'll let people answer it in the comments, and whichever one comes up first on my screen, we'll give them the credit for getting it right. So go for it.
Are we ready? Okay, so first one is let's go. Okay, we know drams. Can you guess the distillery from these clues? Okay, Aunt Lang.
Are these Scottish distilleries?
They're world distilleries. This was
right,
Definitely world distilleries. Yes, absolutely. Have I got the tune? I don't know. Where's the bloody tune? Anyone?
Anybody have a guess on this one?
Can we have a turn then? I think it's Swiss whiskey.
Langton from Shilton.
Yay! Well done, Shilton. Shilton's on fire.
Well done, Shilton.
Langton from not in Sweden, though. It's not in Sweden. It's definitely not in Sweden. Oops. We got that one wrong. It's in Switzerland. John, where are you?
And
okay.
Deal Slow Coach.
Deal Slow Coach. Where's my uke?
Ooh, that's hard.
That is one, yeah. It is hard. Is that one? Which one is it? It's not one of these.
Can you give us a clue?
It's not Ardnahoe.
Can you give us a clue? The country, Dave? Do you know the answer?
I'm just having to look on another screen.
Okay. So Mark, when we do these, we often don't know the answers because our colleague makes them, so we can play along. You know.
Okay.
That's our Uncorked Whisky Sessions podcast. Deal Slow Coach.
Who's on the latest show, by the way, while we're trying to figure this out?
We just did one about environment.
Oh, okay. It's a US distillery. It's known by, so it's a place and it's a new name for the distillery.
Yeah, got it. No, what? That doesn't fit. Huh?
It's in Tennessee.
New name for, yes, gotcha.
Okay, then this is one I haven't heard about because it's not Green River, which was the old OZ Tyler as of this week. Petehead, no, Closed Something is not the distillery name. Let's give up on this one and go on.
It is Cascade Hollow.
Oh, that's been changed for a couple of years ago. That's not a new thing. I thought we were talking a new name.
A couple of years, it's new in whiskey.
That's true. Okay, I'll give you that one. Okay,
not
Cascade Hollow, which used to be Dickel. Number 3.
Okay, Art Draws. Art Draws.
Okay.
Down Under.
Down Under. Yeah. Yeah, I see it now.
Gotta go down.
Okay,
down
I know
under.
we've got some listeners and viewers down in Australia. Let's do one. Come on, guys. You can do this one.
I think someone already mentioned it on the show today.
You certainly did so.
Available in the US too, I think now. Oh, Shilton, you're stealing the show, buddy. Nice.
Starward. But Spirit Bomb got it first. Tabitha got it first. She beat Shilton in just barely.
Well done, Tabitha. Good job.
Okay.
The next one. It's the Rock
Swapper. Okay.
In my glass right now. And it's not nickname.
That's a good clue. So we spoke about it tonight already.
Copperworks.
Absolutely. Bang.
Mark, you're so competitive. You told us to let the viewers.
I know. My bad. Nobody guessed it anyway, so let's do one more.
It was a Copperworks. Oh, what's this one?
And Whiskyle said, I should have gotten it. It's only a few kilometers from me. Yes, you should have. Kareem Whaler.
Yeah.
Kareem
We're back
Whaler.
into the world. We're back into the Jim Murray's country for the best whiskey, the Alberta.
Oh, we're in Canada?
We're
yes.
in Canada.
Thanks. Great clue. Thanks, Dave. Dr. Don. Dr. Don. Calling Dr. Don.
Okay, guys, come on. This is a big one. Here's a clue. If you were watching last Friday when Tish Harkis was on, her whiskey is made there.
Yeah, Tish. How's she, man? That must be hard. She can't travel. She can't do what she does.
She was up in a cabin, a very nice cabin in Northern Ontario, relaxed and happy. Sam Spears got it. Hiram Walker. No, Greg whoops, I'm sorry. Ratcliffe came in first, followed by Greg Unrau and Sam Spears. All three pretty much bang on Hiram Walker.
Well done, gents.
So that's Anadrams.
I've got more, but okay, I'll stop. If that's where we want to stop, let's go.
Let's do one more. You got
One more?
Graham Fraser is bitching because we didn't do any Scotch distilleries. You got a Scotch one in there, so we can do one more?
Oh, I don't think I put any Scotch ones in this one because they're all too easy. I did put the other way around. It's a Wham General, or the General Wham. Woo!
The George Michael Distillery.
Century, man. Scotland's so 1800s.
So 1890s.
Right? Exactly. It's so post Patterson. Yeah, it's so Barnard.
It's so Barnard. Yeah, you might want to put on a French accent for this one.
Dave, they're not going to get this one. This is
they're not going to get this one. No, this is quite a hard one, isn't it? Yes.
Let's give it up.
It was
not good fun. Warringum in France. Okay.
Yeah, it was the Armoric. Yeah. There you go. We missed.
Yeah, Paul Whitson came in with it, but we'd already shown it by the time it popped up on the screen. But Paul will give you credit for that one. Okay, so that is Anadrams. Thank you, Dave. That was fun. Now, if Becky Paskin was here, she would have been hunched over going, yeah, like she was last time we did this.
That's right, yeah.
Yes, Dave Kuhn, France does have distilleries.
Malt ones, grape ones, other fruits. Yeah, plenty.
They have a lot of
Peathead, France? Thought that was Belgium. No, Warringum is what makes Armoric. It's in the Brittany region.
Yeah. They've got like 34 distilleries now in France. I think it's 34 I counted, making French single malts in France, yeah. Armoric is the first single malt distillery in France, and the oldest there. So they're the biggest of the distilleries in France nowadays, and making some cracking whiskey. It's one of those distilleries that Dr. Jim Swan was involved with and sorted things out. So he was everywhere.
Yep.
So many guys. McNean as well. He was there.
Yeah, he did McNean.
Yeah,
he did some work with 10th Street Distillery, I believe, in Oakland and San Jose, California, because they just released an STR cask using his STR cask method.
Ah, yes. Okay, that's definitely got his fingerprint on it then. Cool.
And he also did some stuff, obviously, with Virginia Distillery Company. We mentioned them earlier. He was responsible for some of that courage and conviction that they put together. And I'm going to post this. I'm hoping I'm not sure who she's talking about here, but Handsome Whiskey Men. Okay.
Hi, Johnny.
At first I thought this was a spammer, but if you know her, Dave, okay.
We all know. Everyone knows Charlie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've not had the privilege yet, so I just was making sure, because there was one point where we did have somebody come in and then all of a sudden just starts early on in these webcasts and just came in and started putting comments in, and I wound up having to block them just because didn't know who they were and they were being obnoxious.
Yeah, that's uncomfortable. Yeah.
And anybody who refers to the three of us as Handsome Whiskey Men, I'm thinking, okay, one, your eyesight is off, or you have very bad taste, or you've been drinking far too much.
It's 11 o'clock. She's been drinking. Exactly.
It's late. Yeah.
Midnight. It'll be midnight. It'll be nearly midnight in Norway.
And Dave Kuhn, the Whiskey Castaways, sounds good. And Tabitha, yes, we know Charlie. Okay, Charlie, I'm sorry. I should have known better. I apologize. What's that one, Dave?
I've gone for Paul John, because Shilton's in the background there, and he should be there. There he is. I've gone for Paul John because it's delicious. 6-row barley. Oh. The Whiskey Cask Raiders. Yeah, let's Cask Raiders. Yeah.
The Cask Raiders. I think that sounds like fun.
Cask Raiders. Yeah. Raiders of the Lost Cask.
Ooh, that could be a bottle. That could be a label for you guys.
Raiders of the Lost Casks. Yeah, there we go.
Shilton is happy.
Yeah. He's always happy.
And Charlie goes, yes, we busted her. She does wear lenses, and she has been drinking.
Oh, do a tap for that.
Okay. Well, guys, we've managed to waste an hour of everybody's time tonight. And I want to thank you guys for joining us. Who's on the next episode of the podcast?
Oh goodness! Well, we just came out today, didn't we?
Dropping tonight, yeah. Dropping tonight would have been Annabelle Thomas from McNean and Toast. What was Chris?
Rob, I think.
Rob.
Toast beer. We were talking about environmentalism and packaging and sort of just being environmentally cautious, how the industry grew out of agriculture and how small steps over time has led to where we are fully sustainable, and so many distilleries having different things in place and invested a lot in trying to be carbon neutral or energy neutral or even give back to the grid, but also packaging. And, because Nick Neen is sustainable in a lot of ways. And our friend Nick Ravenhall does a lot of work through whiskey and swimming and sports to raise funds. And of course, Rob takes leftover bread from bakeries and from Tesco and from supermarkets and such and turns it into beer. So we were just talking about that.
Very cool.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to pick on Brook Laddie here, but you got to wonder how much longer we can justify doing these canisters.
Well, the one thing
made out of metal.
Yeah, but that is recyclable, isn't it? And the thing about the canister,
but how many people actually recycle them? Let's be realistic.
Well, then that's your fucking problem, not you, Mark. But people take responsibility. When you buy a bottle, find a secondary use for that too.
Yeah.
But I agree with you, Mark. I think we've just launched a new range of a darkness, for example, limited edition darknesses. And most people, they're not collectible. They're going to drink it. So should we even include the box? What's the point, really? But as much as we say it's what's inside that counts as connoisseurs, most people still want a box, unfortunately. Most people buying whiskey, it's a 50-pound bottle of alcohol, they want a container. It's a gift. Most of the purchases are gifts. So it is a challenge, but there are small ways we can all make a difference. And that starts with you. When you buy your bottle of whiskey, think about what you're going to do with that package. Yeah,
because let's be realistic. It's hard to gift wrap this thing. It's easier to wrap. If you're giving it as a gift, it's easier to wrap a box. But if you're going to actually wrap the thing around the top here, it's real obvious what it is.
Very easy to make a very simple bag out of a bit of wrapping paper to put that in.
Yeah, they sell gift bags too. We don't have to make one.
There you go. So it's easy. Don't make excuses.
But it would be good to see more. It would be good to see more recycled paper used in these boxes. And when you start seeing these wooden boxes that the higher end whiskeys are coming in,
you can make ukuleles out of them.
Yeah, you see that Highland Park one, yeah.
Yeah.
There's only so many ukuleles you need, apparently.
Well, let's end this on a positive note. Graham Fraser says, cheers to Sam and Dave for an interesting session. Tyrone, great night. See you all next time. So Sam, Simmons, Dr. Whiskey, and Dave Worthington, Boutique Dave, from Adam Brands, master of Malt, that boutique whiskey company, and all those fine brands, plus the Uncorked Whisky Sessions podcast. You know that you're going to want to listen to that episode of their show that dropped tonight, and we will have a brand new episode of WhiskyCast out this weekend, and we'll be back with the webcasts on Wednesday and Friday night of next week. So, Sam, did you have something else?
To say no, just thanks for inviting us. It's been really nice seeing you again and speaking with you, Mark.
Yeah, hopefully one of these days we're all going to be able to get together and do this in person soon. Because
I used to avoid your hugs, but after what we've gone through, I'm going to hug the shit out of you when I see you.
You better believe it, with a mask.
Yes, of course. Yeah.
Okay. Hey, thanks, guys, for doing this.
And thank you for having us. A lot of fun.
Thank you all for watching, and we'll just say goodbye from here. Have a great week. Take care of yourselves. Wear your masks. Wash your hands. All that fun stuff. Use the hand sanitizer. Stay 6 feet away. 6 people in the at a time in the room. You know the drill, guys. Look, if we all actually use our heads and get past the politics of this and do what the doctors say, the sooner we can all actually get back to being together again and being able to have a dram together in person. So, Sláinte, take care of yourselves, and we'll all talk soon. Take care, everybody. Good night.
Good night, y'all.